Through my Linoletter series, I carved each letter of the alphabet to see what I could learn through doing this process over and over and over. Part 1 covers designing, transferring, and carving your Linocut, where Part 2 covers the printing process. In linocutting, you need a few tools: a linoleum block, a lino cutter, paper and a pencil, a permanent marker, and your design. For printing, you'll need ink, a roller, and paper. Anytime I start a Linocut, I begin by outlining the lino block to give myself the right size to work with. Then I draw my design in pencil. When I've completed my drawing, I cut it down to size and tape it to my lino block to avoid it shifting while I transfer it. I found with this type of lino that simply coloring on the back of the page with a decent amount of pressure transfers the image onto the lino pretty well. What's on the lino should now be the reversed or mirrored version of your final design. I then outline it in thick permanent marker. This means my design won't smudge while I work on it, and it thickens my lines, making it easier to carve. A smaller carving should be simpler, whereas a larger one can include more detail. The lino cutter came with 4 blades to work with that were numbered. Here you can see a few differences between each blade type. The cutter has 2 parts inside it and they fit together inside the chuck. Your blade sits between the 2 inner pieces and the chuck tightens them to keep in the cutter or the blade. I like this lino cutting tool because I can store the blades I'm not using in the back of it to avoid losing them. My number 1 tip for carving is this: keep your hand out of the way of where your blade could slip. You can also use a table hook, which gives you a surface against which to carve. Support your blade with the other hand, if you can, to give it more stability. When beginning to carve, I like to use the smaller blade first to carve out the details. Once the details are done, I then switch to the larger blade to do the larger areas. Your cut line should be clean, and the blade should move smoothly on the lino. If you're not getting this result, your blade could be dull, in which case you should replace it, or you may be cutting too deep. You only need to carve away a shallow layer of the lino to achieve a successful print. If you're interested in the printing process of Linocuts, check out part 2 of this video series, where I show you the many failed and successful prints from my Linoletter series.